Nothing good can ever come from staying with normal people. I was 14 years old when I first heard that quote, and it immediately resonated with me. It's rebellious. It's galvanizing. It made me look at my own quirkiness and nerdiness and feel empowered. Instead of favoring normalcy, this quote embraces the benefits of breaking away from the ordinary. But more than anything else, this quote demonstrates the transformative power of Japanese animation, or anime. See, this quote comes from an anime called Outlaw Star, but I remember it best from a 2001 Toonami music video called Mad Rhetoric. Toonami was a block of programming that aired a variety of action cartoons on Cartoon Network, and like many who grew up in the late 90s and early 2000s, Toonami was my introduction to anime. Shows like Dragon Ball Z and Sailor Moon helped bring anime into the mainstream. But Toonami was so much more than just a lineup of shows. It was a community, a space where outsider status was a shared experience. And for me, Mad Rhetoric was its anthem, a call to embrace the unconventional and revel in a little chaos. And in those daily blocks and late night programs, I found characters that mirrored my experience, outcasts and misfits who made me feel like I belonged. I wasn't very popular growing up. I was short, quiet, picked on a lot. So I found myself immediately drawn to anime. Not just the art and adventure, but the unique characters and the embedded lessons. And the more I watched, the more immersed in this emergent genre I became. I collected figures and built models. I read manga, argued on anime forums. And yes, I even made my own costumes and went to conventions with friends. It all cultivated a sense of community and belonging. Anime fostered lifelong friendships and forged empathy in me better than other forms of media could. Anime helped me shape my identity. It was never just a form of entertainment to me. It was something more. Skip ahead a few decades. I'm an English professor, and my discipline has transformed in the last few years. The rigid focus on grammar and correctness has shifted towards rhetoric, or understanding the art of persuasion. So I decided to go back to school and get a second master's degree in English Composition and Rhetoric from the University of Texas at Tyler. I'm taking an independent study on multimodal design, or how visuals, text, and other modes combine to create meaning, and I find myself struggling to choose a focus. I'm on a Zoom call with my professor, Dr. Mathew Kelly, and he says to do something no one else is doing. That way no one can do your job for you. He talked about how he used video games in his classroom to engage students with complex ideas through digital literacy. And as he spoke, my eyes sort of wandered around my room towards the trove of assorted anime memorabilia I'd collected over 2 decades of fandom. And suddenly, it clicked. What if I used anime to teach writing? I had my topic, so from fan to scholar, my research arc had begun. Empowered to channel my love of anime into my passion for teaching, I dove into my research. And what I found helped me understand what made anime so special. Research highlighted anime's inherently immersive qualities and its multitude of access points. Some viewers connect to the art or the music, others see themselves in the characters or immerse themselves in these fantastical worlds. Anime further weaves together different modes to create layered, meaningful narratives, which drives viewers to seek out the inscribed meanings in these works. Fans don't just watch. They learn the cultural history and the language and reflect on the social commentary embedded in these stories. Anime also promotes engagement in digital spaces, which fuels its global popularity. Fans scour message boards, write fan fiction, translate ideas across different channels, and become part of a worldwide community. Even though I didn't find a lot on anime in teaching, let alone teaching college English, I was reminded of how much anime meant to me, and I couldn't wait to share this with my students. But I had to see how learners engaged with anime firsthand, so I used what I found as a jumping-off point to inform my pedagogy. In other words, I threw everything at the wall and saw what stuck. And what I found was amazing. Students weren't passive consumers. They were entering these unfamiliar worlds and emerging with unexpected insights. I was concerned that participation would be limited since anime fans often feel stigmatized, and I worried that non-anime fans wouldn't care. But I saw the beginnings of how anime shifted thought. Not only did it give a voice to the voiceless, but even students who weren't into anime began to open themselves up to its possibilities. Like Toonami, my classroom became a haven for community and divergent thought. But while I got students to embrace anime, the writing didn't quite carry that same spark. I was having a lot of success with creative projects, though. In these, I give students free rein to play with anime, to repurpose and mold it into something that bridges innovation and critical thought. Students make new movie posters, create soundtracks, cast live-action films, even make their own comics, all as extensions of their written analysis. There's a kind of alchemy that occurs in this, one that bridges creativity with rhetoric, developing skills that translate well beyond the composition classroom. So I started to ask myself, what if I did the same thing, but with their essays? What if I took those same transformative ideas from their projects and got them to think about their essays not like writing, but like creating? What if I made them into designers rather than writers? What if we looked at anime as a conversation between a creator and a consumer? Anime is discourse. Anime is communication. Anime is rhetoric, but a rhetoric that's fresh and breaks away from tradition. A rhetoric that's a little crazy and invites unconventional thought. Not just any rhetoric, mad rhetoric. It seemed so obvious to me, and I knew I was onto something, so I changed my approach, started incorporating storyboard outlines, creative prompts, and a focus on design choice to get us engaging with this unconventional medium in unconventional ways. Instead of broad generic analysis, I had students dissect a single scene of their choosing, and I asked them, what drew you in? That way I can guide them on their individual viewing paths. Students don't just look at what's said, but how it's delivered. Not just the art, but the movement between frames. Not just what emotions are present, but which ones resonate with them and why. They deconstruct the pacing, the facial expressions, the nuanced meaning. And as they do so, they begin to unravel the rhetoric behind each moment. And then they understand how the creator's choices shape the way we perceive information. And when they link it to their own experience, they become further immersed. Students are so used to being told that their experiences don't matter in academic writing, but with anime, their connection is what brings meaning to life. And that's when things get interesting, because when students learn that their interpretations matter, the writing transforms. When we start thinking multimodally, papers break away from rigid formulaic structures and start taking on new, more dynamic shapes. And as a result, the writing begins to reflect the very things that make anime so special. Storytelling, insightful analysis, and layered expression, all in one impactful process. These are the types of messages I get from students, telling me how I didn't only change their perspective on anime, but on writing altogether. Anime took me from a quiet, unpopular kid to a passionate, energized nerd. And as a result, I get to be a catalyst for these students, someone that makes them feel seen and understood, to go from indifferent non-participants to lifelong learners. Being able to teach something that shaped me as an individual and seeing it resonate with students is just awesome. And somewhere along the way, I became one of the cool professors. Someone my 14-year-old self never thought he could become. All thanks to anime. Education is not set in stone, and we can use anime to make it grow. When most people think of the college English classroom, they think of outdated books and bland, boring prompts. But with anime, we can help English evolve alongside the needs and imaginations of our students. Discourse is increasingly digitized and multimodal. So in order for education to maintain relevance, we need to bridge what we do in the classroom with what students need in the real world. The openness of the humanities creates an opportunity for innovation, a chance to take new forms of media and place them into our canon. But all disciplines could look to anime and seek to capitalize on its popularity, to transform learning into something engaging, meaningful, and fun. It's not just entertainment, it's rhetoric, mad rhetoric. Thank you.